This video will go over the material finish schedules that are present in the Parallax template. To start, if you scroll down to Schedules and Quantities, you'll find two schedules, Material Finishes and Material Finishes Working, which is a duplicate copy of the same schedule that has some fields unhidden to make editing the material finish schedule a little easier. To start, this is the sample model that already has some things in it that we've been using for similar demonstrations. So here we have a building that already has a lot of walls, floors, fixtures, doors, and things like that modeled. If we were to go into the material finish schedule, we'll go into the working one first, you'll see that at the moment it's empty. It's empty because we have a filter on this schedule that says we are looking for the material item type tag to have a greater value than nothing. The reason behind this is these schedules were actually built out of Revit material takeoffs, which means every item that you put into the model is actually recording a material in this list. So, simply from modeling a concrete slab, to placing CMU walls, to placing brick with air spaces, and placing door components, modeling a floor finish, and placing restroom accessories, all of these materials have now shown up in the project. Naturally, we don't want to record all of these in our finish schedule, so we keep the schedule filtered so that only the things that we actually explicitly give a tag value to show up. Here's what that process looks like. We go back to our plan, and we go to an exterior elevation just as a sample. We have some materials that are placed in this model already. We have some brick walls, some doors. We have a stone wall. If we zoom in, you can see the hatch pattern, and we have some glazing. Now, when it comes time to document finishes, we'll use annotate and the material tag to start placing material parameter or material item type mark tags on our elevation. Once we've done this, we may start filling in values such as glazing 1 and brick 1. We'll currently leave the door and the stone off, but you'll see that from filling in the glass and the brick, if we were to make our way back to the material finish schedule, they are now showing up as glazing and as brick. This is the working schedule that has a couple of fields that are called hide me before printing. If you were to go to the actual material finish schedule that is not called working, you would see that those things are hidden and you simply see GL1 and BR1. Similarly, if we now go back to the exterior elevation and also fill in, for instance, on this door, we've already given it a finish material in the parameter of the door, and we may decide that that color is paint 3, and then we may also have stone 1. So we could do this for the rest of the building, and it's not required that these only be done in elevation, of course. If we were to go to our floor pattern plan, in this plan you'll see that I've also modeled in a floor finish. So we may elect to call this VCT1. And then we may also elect to model in VCT2 so that you can see what happens when you have two materials of the same category type. So we're modeling VCT2. Keep in mind, I'm only having to fill in the type mark values for these materials because this is a project that is fairly new and these have not been filled in yet. So we'll call this material VCT2. Now, if we go back and check out our schedules, the material finish schedule will be listing all of these materials. Glass 1, paint, stone, 2 VCTs, and brick. You'll notice that brick is already classifying itself in a different group. In order to make the rest of your materials do that, which is something often asked about in Revit, simply go to your working material finishes schedule. Here you'll see that brick is classifying itself based on this product type. So if we would like to call our multiple VCTs flooring, we can simply give them the value of flooring. You could also break them into different types of flooring if you'd like. We could call this stone. We can classify all of our paint materials together. And we can have our glazing materials separated as well. If we now go look at our material finish schedules, you'll see that brick and flooring and glazing and paint and stone are all now separated in the material finish schedule. It's important to note that this material finish schedule can only show materials that are actually used somewhere in the model, meaning if somebody were to delete all of the brick 1 walls, naturally brick 1 will come out of that schedule. It's also worth mentioning that there are some things that will not schedule materials in the model. Wall sweeps are one of those things. So if you are using wall sweeps as your wall bases, they will not schedule correctly. In these cases, a workaround is often to go to a floor plan or a legend floor plan of the project and to model a small floor over to the right of the legends that does not actually interfere with the model. Then you can use the Revit Paint tool to put the material that you would wish to see in the finish schedule on that floor, at which point it will then actually exist in the model somewhere other than in a Revit wall sweep. Best practice is to leave as many materials in the schedule reading solely off the actual building model and to only use the floor workaround for the materials that will not schedule themselves. However, some teams have taken to placing floors in what they call a material garden. That way they can pre-populate the list of finishes that they would like to see in the schedule prior to having the model completed. Keep in mind that if your project team does this, you'll need to visit wherever they have modeled the material garden to get items to disappear from this list. That's all of how to use the material finish legends. So that should have you able to create and classify your different materials going forward.